We're being told to brace for yet another battering as a new weather front heads towards the UK, less than 24 hours after Storm Isha left a trail of destruction across the country. 2 people have died after their cars hit trees brought down across the UK. Thousands have been left without power, and both rail and air services have been severely disrupted. Joining me in the studio now, independent travel editor Simon Calder. Good to see you, Simon. And joining us live from Scotland, reporter Davy Shanks. I think we better go to Davy because he's really been in the absolute thick of it, the eye of Storm Isha. Hi, Davy. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hello.
Can you describe what's been going on, what it was like, how it is now, all of it?
It has been an extraordinary week or so of weather here in the northeast of Scotland. This field that I'm standing in now, just a couple of days ago, would have been, up past my ankles in snow. Then it all thawed, and then suddenly, before we knew it, we were in the thick of Storm Isha. Now, we knew about the amber weather warning from about 6 p.m. last night. The whole of the country was affected by that, expecting extremely severe winds and severe rain. And as that raged on through the evening, extremely high gusts, I think up to nearly 100 miles an hour in Northumberland too, and the rain lashing down just before midnight. The Met Office upgraded that weather warning to what we like to describe in news as a rare red weather warning, but it is becoming increasingly common. So that came out just before midnight. And that, of course, means there is a risk to life. Mainly, the Met Office say due to damage to buildings, debris flying around, hitting people and vehicles too. Now, mercifully, perhaps that warning came between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. This morning, meaning that fewer people were out and about, perhaps, and it was much, much calmer through the morning. But we do know now, sadly, that one person, an 84-year-old man in Grangemouth in Scotland, lost his life in an incident involving a fallen tree. And again, another man in his 60s in Northern Ireland, too, lost his life in an incident involving a fallen tree.
And tell me what's going on today, because we've had another warning, another storm is on the way, less than 24 hours after Isha. So, gosh, whatever devastation's occurred, who knows what's going to happen next?
Yeah, very much the calm before and after the storm today. About 400 engineers have been out across the country trying to reconnect some of the 85,000 power customers who have been left without electricity today. I think, as you mentioned earlier, and as I'm sure Simon will get onto, the entire rail network was shut down this morning during rush hour to clear debris. There were greenhouses, garden sheds, trampolines, furniture, trees, all across the railways. So an incredible amount of work to repair. But as you say, Storm Jocelyn is preparing itself somewhere across the Atlantic, gathering itself ever eastwards to come and join us tomorrow night. Now, ScotRail have just announced that they will once again be suspending all services. So again, more travel disruption to come. Now, we're told Jocelyn will bring rain of up to 50 millimeters, in some places gusts 50, 60 miles per hour. So once again, people will have to prepare for yet more damage, more disruption, high winds and wet weather again.
Davy, thank you very much indeed. Simon Calder, I know. I mean, it's one of those, isn't it? It's like, oh my goodness, how much more? So you do have a mixture of good and bad news.
Yes, the bad news, actually, Davy beat me to it. He's very much on the ball just in the last couple of minutes. ScotRail have said, we are going to do a repeat of what we did last night. And that is unprecedented. I'm sure I haven't heard this even for bad weather. Shutting down the entire system from 7 p.m. tomorrow. That's what they did last night. Any trains that are still running will complete their journeys, but with restricted speed, so it could take a couple of hours extra. And on top of that, they say, no way we're going to open until we've been round all the tracks and checked them to make sure that there are no obstructions. And this, they just said, unprecedented damage wrought by Storm Isha and Storm Jocelyn following immediately behind. But I can bring you a tiny bit of good news,
Yes,
which
please
is going to benefit some people in Scotland if they use LNER. This is the flagship rail company that runs between London, North East England and Scotland. And they were the subject of a 5-day strike from the 5th to the 9th of February by ASLEF. They've been singled out. I understand a row about whether they would impose minimum service levels. Well, they're not going to impose minimum service levels. The strike is not going to happen, but the much bigger nationwide strike, which is a combo of a overtime ban from the 29th of January to the 6th of February, plus rolling regional strikes, is going to continue. So yeah, as soon as we get the weather disruption over, prepare yourself, batten down for the next set of rail strikes.
Oh my goodness. Oh dear.
Well, and I'm afraid if you're travelling around today by air, by rail, by ferry, you face problems. We saw such extraordinary times last night at the airports. One flight from Edinburgh to Bristol, an EasyJet flight, diverted to Paris, which was exciting. And one night in Paris, who wouldn't like that? Well, I can tell you exactly who wouldn't like that. All the passengers who thought, I'm getting a domestic flight.
Yeah.
I really don't need a passport for that.
Oh, yeah.
And suddenly they were in France.
What happened?
What happened was they slept in the transit lounge because they weren't allowed through on the ground.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Well, they wouldn't let them kind of waive it because of the circumstances
No.
and be allowed through.
No.
That's not fair, is it?
Well, it was extremely inconvenient. In all my time, I don't know I've ever heard of a UK domestic flight diverting to another
France,
country.
and I hear in Ireland it's absolute bedlam in some
Oh,
Ireland.
sure, yeah. I mean, it's really horrible, and we've been seeing all this fantastic footage, and all of this is entirely safe. I know there's an awful lot of people watching. Perhaps they've got friends, family. Perhaps they were on one of these planes, and they think, "Crikey, this is so terrifying." It's absolutely not. Pilots prepare for this. They prepare for go-arounds when you're coming into land and you decide, actually, I'm not going to do that, and then you so all perfectly safe, but a little bit worrying for a number of people who are anxious about flying. And I'm just so sorry that tens of thousands of people still tonight are not where they needed to be this time yesterday.
Simon Calder, thank you very much. One day you'll come in and we'll talk about lovely holidays
Oh,
and
wouldn't that be
glad
nice?
tidings and pina coladas on a Sunday.
Oh.
Well, one day we'll do that, one day.